Okay, now we're on to these dandies. Here's how you read this. 6 times the absolute value of x minus 4 equals 36. Now, a lot of people, what they'll try to do is they'll try to distribute the 6 with the rainbows. You can't do that. It's not a parentheses. It's an absolute value. You cannot multiply through an absolute value. So we need to get that set right now. Now, I don't know what my absolute value equals at this moment because it's being multiplied by 6. So what I should do is then divide both sides by 6 because that's the opposite of multiplication. So I have the absolute value of x minus 4, and that equals 6. Now it's pretty clear that the absolute value equals 6, so I can go to my table. So I can be at 6 or negative 6. And then I take the x minus 4 plus 4. I don't need to divide because there's a 1, so I get 10. Then negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Okay, my next problem. The absolute value of x plus 3 minus 16 equals negative 4. Now, I don't know what the absolute value equals because of that. The 16 is being subtracted. So what's the opposite of subtracting 16? Adding 16. Negative 4 plus 16 is 12, and now I have my absolute value all by itself. So I know that the absolute value is equal to 12 or negative 12. Now, what's inside that? X plus 3. Okay, so minus 3, 1x equals 9, so it's 9. And 1x equals negative 15. I don't need to divide by 1. Those are your two solutions. Okay, my next page. 2 times the absolute value of 3x plus 4 plus 2 equals 16. Okay. So I don't know what my absolute value equals because I have a multiplying by 2 and there's a 2 being added. So I need to take care of both of those items. First, I take care of the adding. So I'm going to minus 2 and minus 2. So now the equation is equal to 14. And I have 2 times the absolute value of 3x plus 4. And now I need to deal with that multiplication of 2. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 2? Dividing by 2. So 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, but having a multiplier of 1 means you just have the absolute value. 1 times anything just is irrelevant, and that's 7. Okay, so now I know my absolute value clearly is equal to 7. So I could be at 7 or negative 7 with that. And the expression is 3x plus 4. So I box up 3x, I minus 4. So 3 times x equals 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So there's our first answer. Negative 7 minus 4 is negative 11. Negative 11 divided by 3 is a decimal that never ends, so I'm just going to keep it in fraction form. Okay, my next problem is going to be a quick one. Negative 4 times the absolute value of 7x plus 2. When you have it in the front, it's times. So I don't know what it's equal to because I need to divide by negative 4. So that equals negative 8. So I got the absolute value of 7x plus 2. Now, if your absolute value ends up being equal to a negative number, the answer is no solution because the absolute value can never be equal to a negative. It always needs to equal a positive. Okay, so my next problem. Set that up. Negative 9 times the absolute value of 4x plus 2 minus 8 equals negative 35. Now, don't just write no solution because you don't know, you have no idea what that absolute value equals. You have an 8 being subtracted from it and a multiplication by negative 9. So I plus 8. We want to get rid of the minus plus number first. So it's going to be negative 27. Then over here I've got negative 9 times the absolute value of 4x plus 2. Now I need to cancel out the multiplication of the negative 9. I do that with the opposite operation, which is division. Show your work, don't be lazy. So it's equal to 3. So the absolute value of 4x plus 2 equals 3. So the absolute value equals 3, so I can be equal to 3 or negative 3. Positive and negative. Now when it starts as a negative, it's no solution, but it's positive. So 4x plus 2 and 4x plus 2. Minus 2, 4 times x equals 1. Now 1 divided by 4 is a decimal, but it actually ends. It's 0.25, so I'm just going to write that. And then minus 2, so 4x equals negative 5, and then I divide by 4. Negative 5 divided by 4 is negative 1.25. So I wrote these as decimals. I didn't leave them as fractions because the decimal actually ends. Okay, my next problem. Negative 3 multiplied by the absolute value of x plus 2 minus 7 equals negative 10. So we got the minus 7. We got to take care of that first. So plus 7, negative 3. And I have negative 3 times the absolute value of x plus 2. Now I need to cancel the multiplication of negative 3 by dividing by negative 3. That gives me a multiplier of 1. So if I have a multiplier of 1, I don't need to write 1. It's the absolute value of x plus 2, and that's going to be 1. So the absolute value I now know is equal to 1, so I can be at 1 or negative 1. So inside the absolute value, you got x plus 2. So minus 2, 1x equals negative 1. Okay? And then 1x plus 2, minus 2, it's going to be x equals negative 3. 2 more. 2 times the absolute value of x minus 5 plus 4 equals 2. So I don't know what my absolute value equals because I have it 4 being added and a 2 being multiplied. So first I deal with the plus 4. So I minus 4, and that's negative 2. So 2 times the absolute value of x minus 5. And then I divide by 2. That gives me a multiplier of 1, so it's x minus 5. And then negative 1. Well, it can't be equal to a negative, so that's no solution. I don't need to do the chart, okay? The absolute value of 3x plus 5, and then there's a 6 being added after it, equals negative 2. So we've got to deal with the adding of 6. So minus 6, that's negative 8. Absolute value of 3x plus 5. That cannot be equal to a negative number, so it's no solution. It's not solvable.